Welcome to the first of a series of screencasts that talk about inequalities. This is inequalities for Olympiad questions. So it's not going to be focused on rigorous approach. It's going to be a practical. So when I say non-rigorous, what I mean is I'm going to assume that you understand what this means. A is less than or equal to B. A is less than B. A greater than B. A is greater than or equal to B. 4 different inequalities here. I'm usually going to focus on this one purely because I find it easier to write less than or equal to, whereas I get a bit my writing isn't good enough to do these strict inequalities here. So we say that A is less than or equal to B is, sorry, that's A is less than B. Sometimes I say A is strictly less than B, if I want to emphasize the fact that they can't be equal. So A is less than B implies A is not equal to B. You'll lose marks if you're not careful about equality. And if you say that A is strictly less than B and it might be equal to B, then that's not correct. Okay, so we've got strict inequalities less than and greater than, and regular inequalities less than or equal to and greater than or equal to. And I'm going to assume that you understand that 2 is less than 3 and 4 is less than or equal to 4 and so on. Okay. So let's start with something. If A is less than B, then A plus X is less than B plus X for any X. Understood that I'm talking about real numbers here. Also, if A is less than or equal to B, then A plus, do that again. A plus X is less than or equal to B plus X, again for any X. So it's just some very basic manipulations here. Multiplication's a little bit harder. Multiplication. If X is strictly positive and A is strictly less than B, and A is less than B, then AX is strictly less than AB. I just want to make the observation that you've got to be a little bit careful about equality here. If all we know is that X is non-negative, it might be equal to 0. A is less than B, strictly less than B, implies that AX is only less than or equal to BX, because of the possibility, of course, that X might be equal to 0. X may be equal to 0. So you've just got to be a little bit careful about that. What happens if X is negative? If X is negative, then A is less than or equal to B implies that AX is greater than or equal to BX. So we change the sign, which is of course the case if X is strictly negative. Means change the direction, change the inequality. Okay. Sometimes I'll write it like this. Sometimes I'll say if X is less than 0 and A is less than or equal to B, that implies that BX is less than or equal to AX. Sometimes I'll keep the inequality and just swap the quantities on either side of it. So again, I'm going to assume that all this is understood. Right, and I'm going to stop there.